You mentioned you were still working when things started to change for you. How, once you got your diagnosis, how did that change your relationship or your communication with your coworkers or with your employers?
It put in a lot of time and a lot of effort into building stronger relationships with people that you've worked with for a number of years. And the reality is that once everyone found out that you had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was almost as if you had the plague.
Yes. Really?
Oh, I didn't have that at all.
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
I still stay in contact with maybe one or two people, but it's so infrequent that it doesn't even count. Basically, people didn't know how to react and I think interact with me. They saw me as someone totally different. They felt that I could no longer hold a conversation. They felt that I could no longer understand current affairs. They thought I certainly couldn't understand financial affairs any longer. So what else was there except family? And family, that gets kind of tiring for guys. But it was hard.
Interject here. Part of that too is because I think society has a myth about dementia. They don't see people like ourselves. They see, the final stages of death and dying,
or the person sitting in the wheelchair looking out the window.
Yeah, and never speaking, not being able to talk, not being able to move. And so they hear the word, and even though we're different, that's what they see. I perceive is what I'm thinking. I knew with my job, I went on stress leave before I told them. And then when I found out, I had to go and tell them. And I knew, I sobbed all the way to work because I knew that once I told them my diagnosis, I would never work again in the field. So besides losing, you lose a career, you lose a job, you lose a lot of friends. A lot of that is just because they don't come out anymore, they don't see. I've lost all my friends. One friend from work, and I worked in one agency for 17 years and the other for 5. And, they're your whole life when you're working. They're your best friends, they're everything. And I agree, I think it scares them, But I think it's no different than any other illness. Years ago, I was diagnosed with a cancer, and I was shocked. People would walk out of the room in my office that knew me if I walked in that were uncomfortable. And later, one lady said, I apologize, my mother had that and she passed away from it and I just couldn't look at you. And I think they don't, because of not knowing enough about dementia, especially with young people, they don't know how to talk to us.
I think if you listen to everybody, everybody has a different situation. I had Alzheimer's diagnosed later in life, later than some people, because I'd already quit working. And so for me it was no issue, work was no issue.
Yeah.
And I can't see the pain that some people have because I haven't had that pain. And I think part of it is I'm sure part of it is because our family is so close and they spend so much time and they're very carefully look after both my husband and myself to make sure that everything's good. And so what more could one want? I mean, I'm in my 70s, darn near 80, coming up. So I feel I've had a wonderful life. And I think that we're all so different. If your story and my story and your story and every other person's story when we have our gatherings together.
Yeah.
They are all very, very different. And sometimes I feel I don't fit because my story is, I'm a happier, secure person because of the family I have around me. And there's so many people don't have all the security that I do. So I just count my blessings.
How do you?
And
sorry.
that's where the Alzheimer's Society, our support groups, you know, when I first went, I can be honest, the first night I thought I'm going to try it for one group. That's it, if I don't like it, I'm not coming back. Well, it's been, I don't know how many years now. I've been in there 5 maybe. I'm now co-facilitating, helping co-facilitate my group because I used to facilitate women's groups and men's groups. So that alone has helped me to build my self-esteem and still feel like I'm doing something worthwhile in the community. And so your self-esteem is built, but just talking in there to other people, and it helps. It's helped me immensely. You need that. I need that every month. After a while, I had my kids, and my husband are there to listen. But after a while, I don't want to share it all with them because they're living with it too daily. And when I go to the support groups, it's something I can say to you about the years. You know, do you feeling the same? And what's your doctor say? And I don't have to at this point burden them with that. And not that they would feel burdened, but they're living it too, you know.
How has the Alzheimer's Society helped you guys? Or are you connected with them?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I go to the support groups too. One is a men's group and the other one is a mixed group. But they're interesting. We spend most of our time laughing. And we make an incredible amount of fun of ourselves. And I think that's one of the essential components you need for a living, is that you can't take everything so seriously. We make a lot of mistakes. You may as well laugh about it rather than trying to correct them. I guess that's the best way of saying it. But no, they have been essential. They've built up a lot of friendships in those groups. But once again, it's a matter of sharing and recognizing that my problems are not unique, and they're certainly shared by the rest of the group in many ways. And I can get an incredible wealth of information from them as well.
I really enjoy going to the meeting that we go to, but it's not that those are our friends that we take home with us. So everybody needs to have other friends besides the people that are, pardon me, in the Alzheimer's group.
Describe what it's like, what it feels like to live with dementia on a day-to-day level.
It can be very frustrating, and it can be, and for me the frustration is because whatever normal is, I don't think there is such a thing, but I can present that way most of the time. So I don't know when I'm not going to present that way. I just went away, and this girl with me kept telling me I don't have a darn thing wrong with me until we got an embarrassing situation where she saw it was. But, you know, it's like I could tell she was questioning that I was even telling the truth. So I found that hard. When I'm having good days, when I first quit work, it was like feeling guilty because, oh my God, maybe I'm not sick. I should be working because I'm doing fine. Everything is great, you know? So it's like you don't know when it comes. So for me, it's changed now because I've accepted that's part of the illness. But at the beginning, it was a roller coaster. And, you know, even when I got something happened that I knew I had it for sure, you know, I couldn't move, or I couldn't walk, or I couldn't talk. Part of that believe it or not, was relief because, I am, thank God, really sick. I'm not a phony. I'm not missing work because, so it had the real highs and lows and hard for me to accept and hard for family. Now, that was a main thing that lots of families found hard is, boy, 1 minute she's like the old Christine. She's very independent. She can do anything. And the next minute, she can't even get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that you were asking how it affects kind of like our daily life.
Like what sort of challenges do you have
Yeah,
daily?
I don't adjust to change. I really have a hard time with change, and when my wife rearranged the living room, it was overwhelming. Like that sounds strange, but it was almost like a sense of panic because something was out of place, and it wasn't where it should be and where it belonged. My sense of belonging. I've discovered that my sense of belonging is permanent. It doesn't change. But I've also learned to accept the fact that I recognize it and that it will take me time to adjust to it. But now I think other people around me also recognize that. And so my wife, rather than doing everything all at once, will do it almost piecemeal. Yeah. And so it's a slower transition. And you live with it. You kind of do the best you can. But it is frustrating. It's a frustrating life. And it's sometimes it's somewhat of a lonely life. You can confide in your spouse all you want, but it's difficult for her to really understand. And I think your spouse oftentimes has this theory is that, well, I'll just do things to make things better. And in reality, those doing things sometimes become much more frustrating for you than anything else. But I certainly relied on a lot of the people that I've met through the Alzheimer's Society and through our groups. I rely on them a lot. Pick up a telephone, call them, talk to them. They know what I go through, and they're going through the same thing.
That's a really good tip. Do you guys have other tips of how coping tips, for people?
I find that, and my husband was concerned when we moved, because we moved from a big house to a much smaller place. And I didn't have any struggle. And he was waiting for me maybe to feel some stress over it. But it's a lovely, smaller place, and the other place was much, much bigger than we needed. And besides, then my husband had to do all the work to keep it up, or else we had to hire somebody or whatever. But we just moved into this new place, and much to my husband's relief and maybe a little surprise, we were home.
Yeah, nice.
It was just a different home,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
all.